Having delved into the first part of Prime Minister Abiy's reign, we have traced his steps and compared them with those of Emperor Haile Selassie. We've seen the stark contrast in their leadership styles, their prioritization of national interests, and their approaches to maintaining peace and unity. The emperor's reign was marked by significant introductions, transforming the nation's judicial, educational, and infrastructural landscapes. While the emperor faced opposition and conflict, he did not spark internal wars that cost millions of lives. On the contrary, Prime Minister Abiy's term has seen devastating consequences. His actions led to the destruction of thousands of schools and sparked internal conflicts, causing loss of life and displacement. As we reflect on these historical narratives, it's crucial to evaluate leadership legacies objectively, considering their impact on development, peace, and societal well-being. Now let's dive into the second part of our journey, embarking on an exploration of the era of Colonel Mengistu Hailemariam. Part 2. In the turbulent aftermath of the royal overthrow in Ethiopia, Colonel Mengistu Hailemariam rose to power, reshaping the nation's destiny through revolution and reform. In the first 5 years of his rule, Colonel Mengistu initiated transformative policies that fundamentally altered Ethiopia's socio-economic landscape. In 1967, Colonel Mengistu issued the Land Proclamation, granting Ethiopian farmers ownership of their land, a monumental shift in land rights. He also proclaimed city land and surplus houses as public property, reclaiming wealth from nobles and empowering the common people. His protection of farmers contrasted sharply with current challenges farmers face under the Abiy Ahmed administration, where agricultural productivity is hindered, and farmers face insults for asking for fertilizer. They are also labeled as non-taxpayers and accused of exacerbating food inflation in cities by hoarding agricultural outputs and refusing to sell. Mengistu's legacy includes providing housing to the poor, a stark contrast to recent evictions and discriminatory practices city dwellers face under PM Abiy. Mengistu's commitment to education saw millions of students enrolled annually, marking a significant growth rate. In the 5 years after the revolution, Colonel Mengistu's work on education has allowed 4 million students to enter primary and secondary schools every year, according to the Education System of Africa, which focused on the development of education in Africa, with an average annual growth of 12%. In contrast, in the 2013 and 2014 school years alone, UNESCO confirmed that 15 million children were out of school due to war and displacement. Mengistu's leadership faced challenges, notably the Somali invasion, which he bravely countered, defending Ethiopia's sovereignty. Despite internal opposition, Mengistu's resolve in the face of external threats solidified his position and preserved Ethiopia's integrity. Colonel Mengistu Hailemariam's tenure was marked by revolutionary reforms, resilience in adversity, and a commitment to Ethiopia's progress, leaving behind a complex and enduring legacy. Unlike Colonel Mengistu Hailemariam, Colonel or PM Abiy's approach to foreign relations and domestic conflicts has sparked controversy and criticism. One of the most contentious actions taken by Prime Minister Abiy was the invitation extended to the Eritrean army, leading to their incursion into Tigray. This move resulted in clashes and loss of life, escalating tensions in the region. Furthermore, Abiy's silence regarding Eritrea's occupation of 52 kebbles in Tigray raised questions about his commitment to protecting Ethiopian territories and people. Beyond these issues, Prime Minister Abiy faced criticism for his handling of territorial annexations by neighboring countries. South Sudan's annexation of a district and Sudan's occupation of a significant territory were met with minimal response from Abiy's administration, leading to accusations of neglecting Ethiopia's sovereignty. While some argue that Abiy's actions were aimed at maintaining political stability, critics point out the contradiction in his approach. Despite claiming brotherhood with neighboring nations, Abiy's administration chose not to confront external challenges to Ethiopia's territorial integrity. But at the same time, Prime Minister Abiy labeled the people of Tigray as enemies and attacked them with the country's wealth, and even by inviting the Eritrean army. Prime Minister Abiy's emphasis on avoiding enmity with neighboring states led to questions about his priorities and the impact of his decisions on Ethiopian security and sovereignty. Next, we will delve into the next era, exploring the leadership of Zenawi, We now delve into the transformative period following Meles Zenawi's ascension to power after 17 years of political and armed struggle. Within 3 weeks of taking office, Meles Zenawi's government made significant strides in democratic freedoms, including the right to freedom of expression, association, and media. The nation's political elites, having shed the previous regime's constraints, came together, advocating for a transitional government, an unprecedented move in Ethiopian history. Meles Zenawi heeded this call and facilitated the establishment of a transitional government. Despite possessing the military and organizational capabilities to rule independently, Meles Zenawi opted for inclusivity, forming the transitional government alongside diverse Ethiopian factions. This collaborative approach marked a pivotal moment in Ethiopia's political landscape. The transitional government, spanning 4 years, navigated challenges and charted a course for Ethiopia's future, fostering unity and dialogue among diverse communities. Fast forward to 2010, a new era dawned with the appointment of Prime Minister Abiy. However, when confronted about the legacy of the transitional government, Prime Minister Abiy's response, "I will transcend you," hinted at a different approach to governance. This rhetoric of transcendence resonated with some segments, particularly those abroad, identifying as opposition figures. However, as the Prime Minister's tenure progressed, Ethiopia witnessed deep societal fractures and escalating violence. The legacy of the first 5 years of Meles Zenawi's collaborative approach stands in contrast to the 5 years under Prime Minister Abiy. Let's move to Hailemariam's period. Continuing Ato Meles Zenawi's vision, Hailemariam oversaw the completion of numerous transformative projects. This included the establishment of over 10 additional universities, the construction of more than 150,000 condominiums, and the development of critical infrastructure like the Addis Ababa and Ethio-Djibouti railway lines, and so on. Additionally, continuing Meles Zenawi's legacy, under Hailemariam's leadership, progress on the Renaissance Dam reached 65% completion, and extensive road networks, including the Addis Adama Expressway, were constructed, contributing to national development. This success story, initiated by Mr. Meles and continued by Mr. Hailemariam, laid a strong foundation for Ethiopia's growth and development. In contrast, Prime Minister Abiy's 5-year, a very difficult period. The Awash-Waldia railway line became a battleground, threatening stability and security. There were allegations of repeated infringements on Ethiopia's sovereignty and military integrity. Despite promises, not a single condominium was initiated and delivered, leading to disillusionment among citizens. Development projects faced setbacks, and a substantial investment in a presidential palace raised questions about priorities. Interestingly, PM Abiy inherited a better country in diplomacy, economic stability, bureaucratic reforms, and educational achievements from previous administrations. But in his first 5 years, he brought the country backward in all areas. Furthermore, the human cost of conflicts during Prime Minister Abiy's tenure is starkly different. Previous leaders prioritized political and territorial integrity, avoided ethnic tensions, and spearheaded societal and economic transformations without causing harm to their own people or collaborating in actions detrimental to national unity. In this documentary, we embark on a journey spanning from Emperor Haile Selassie's era in 1923 to Ato Hailemariam's departure in 2010, delving into pivotal moments in Ethiopian history and contrasting them with the present leadership under Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. None of the past Ethiopian leaders are like Abiy Ahmed, and all of them were much better in all aspects we have uncovered. In our search of PM Abiy Ahmed alike from the leaders who led Ethiopia over the past 100 years, we come across Graziani. When we draw parallels between Prime Minister Abiy's government and Graziani's occupation, historical narratives reveal striking similarities. Graziani's failed attempts at religious manipulation led to brutal tactics, including coercing bishops to betray their followers and resorting to violence when met with resistance. Historical records detail the devastating toll of Graziani's rule, with thousands of civilians perishing in bombings, massacres, and concentration camps. Comparatively, the current era under Prime Minister Abiy presents a sobering reality. The atrocities in Tigray and other regions have resulted in a staggering loss of civilian lives, surpassing historical figures. The Aksum massacre, the Merawi massacre, and other tragic events underscore the magnitude of violence witnessed in recent years, marking some of the deadliest incidents in Ethiopia's history. While historical regimes like Italy's under Graziani left lasting infrastructure legacies such as road networks, the human cost cannot be overlooked. In reflecting on the last 90 years and comparing leadership legacies, the narrative shifts towards evaluating the impact on Ethiopia's people, progress, and stability. As Ethiopia navigates its complex history and current challenges, understanding the lessons from the past and forging a united path forward remains essential for the nation's future. The assertions of I, myself, and me by Abiy Ahmed only leads the country to misery. Akin to the brutal Graziani's rule, Prime Minister Abiy's regime has been marred by violence and civil unrest. Yet, what stands out about Abiy's leadership is the stark contrast between his Nobel Peace Prize-winning image and the reality on the ground. This dichotomy raises critical questions about the path Ethiopia is currently treading. In our journey through Ethiopia's political history, we have drawn parallels between past leaders and the current Prime Minister, Abiy Ahmed. His tenure, marked by a unique leadership style, has been unconventional to say the least. We've seen the stark contrast between his Nobel Peace Prize-winning image and the harsh reality on the ground. Let's recap some of the key points we've discussed. Under Abiy's leadership, not a single condominium was initiated and delivered, leading to disillusionment among citizens. Development projects faced setbacks, and a substantial investment in a presidential palace raised questions about priorities. The human cost of conflicts during his tenure is starkly different from previous leaders who prioritized political and territorial integrity, avoided ethnic tensions, and spearheaded societal and economic transformations without causing harm to their own people. The impact of PM Abiy's leadership on Ethiopia's political landscape has been profound. His rule has been marred by violence and civil unrest, akin to the brutal rule of Graziani. The atrocities in Tigray and other regions have resulted in a staggering loss of civilian lives, marking some of the deadliest incidents in Ethiopia's history. As we look to the future, it's uncertain what Ethiopia will look like under PM Abiy's continued leadership. His promises of transformation have yet to be realized, and the country faces significant challenges as it navigates its complex history and current realities. As we conclude, it's clear that PM Abiy's reign is indeed unconventional. However, only time will tell if his leadership will bring about the transformation he promises. Thank you for joining us on this journey through Ethiopia's political history. It's important to remember that the nation's future lies not in the hands of one man, but in the collective will and determination of its people.